All right, so we have obviously been doing a lot of talking about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's running a failed presidential campaign at the moment, and sort of the absurd and cruel policies that he has been deploying in the state of Florida. But there is another Republican governor who is, I think, in the running for one of the most demented motherfuckers in the United States, at least within a position of power, and his name is Greg Abbott, and obviously he is the governor of Texas. And so just to give you guys a little bit of a perspective in terms of what Abbott has been up to recently, we had a video here that was posted by Joaquin Castro, where he is basically showing us some of the recent tactics that the Border Patrol has been using under Abbott's orders within the state of Texas that are just like essentially some of the most barbaric things that I have ever seen. So let's go ahead and watch this video, and then I'll give you guys a little bit more information after.
I know that there's been a lot of controversy about these barrel traps that are being placed by Governor Abbott in the Rio Grande and what exactly they're doing, and the state says that they're not a danger to anybody. Well, I want you to look right here at this chainsaw type device they hit right in the middle of these buoys, and then if you come right over here, you can see in the distance the razor wire, all that razor wire right against the river. So you really have a situation where the state government and Greg Abbott are treating human beings like animals. These are folks who are asylum seekers who try to petition for asylum in the United States. And this is how the men, women, and children, what they're seeing here when they try to present for asylum. It's incredibly dangerous, incredibly inhumane, and it's the reason that I've said that it's barbaric, because it is. You see that go all along there. People are getting stuck. There was a dead body that was stuck to this last week. Reports of a child that died. If you go closer to this razor wire, there's people's clothing that has been stuck to the wire because they've gotten stuck in that wire. And the state troopers, even if when they see families with a baby, with a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, they won't help the family if they're stuck in that wire. So it's incredibly inhumane, and that's why we're out here. Operation Lone Star has also been devastating to the border community. They've seized private property. This is supposed to be a public park. You can see that they've taken it over for their operation, so the public can't really use it much anymore. So it's gotten very dangerous, not just for the migrants. The state troopers have now cut off CBP from doing its job. They're very much interfering with the work that CBP is responsible for, and then it's dangerous for the community as well.
Okay, so I mean, credit to Castro for actually going down and putting this on blast. But I mean, this is just completely fucking insane. I mean, we're looking at like literal saw traps that are being put in the water where people wouldn't even be able to necessarily see them in low visibility and stuff. And we'll get to more of the details here in a second. But I mean, think about this, right? We have an arbitrary line in the sand right here in the United States. We have this southern border where disproportionately these are just families, right? This is a mom or a dad who is trying to come in search of a better life for themselves, for their family members, for their children, right? That is the vast majority of people who are coming up to the southern border. And conservatives will turn around and they'll say, oh, this is to, I don't know, protect criminals from coming into the country, or to, protect us from drug smugglers who are coming into the country, right? First off, the vast disproportionate majority of drugs that are coming in illicitly through the United States southern border, they're not coming through places like this. They're coming through legal ports of entry, and a lot of those are being trafficked by American citizens, right? So the idea that this is actually for the safety and the security of the American people is just completely delusional. And you can also look at crime statistics. Of course, we've talked about this before. Trump obviously famously years ago saying that they're sending rapists, they're sending criminals and thugs and all of that stuff, referring to people who are coming to the southern border, right? If you actually look at the data on this, immigrants to the United States have a lower crime rate than native-born Americans. So all of these arguments about protecting public safety just completely fall apart when you actually do a little bit of scrutiny and you actually do a little bit of research into who these people are that are coming to the border. Again, these are people who are fleeing maybe political persecution or violence or, the ongoing worsening effects of climate change or, other things within their own home countries that are not going so well. And so they're trying to come to the United States States in search of a better life. And oh, by the way, you take a little bit of a look throughout the history of the United States of America, and you could probably put a significant degree of the blame for a lot of the situations in some of those countries that people are fleeing on the United States of America, with some of the policies that we have deployed in trying to expropriate the the resources of these countries, to exploit the labor of these countries, toppling democratically elected leaders if they happen to be left wing and they're trying to look out for their own people. I mean, so much of this blame actually does lie with the history of the United States foreign policy within a lot of these countries, right? And so we get to more details here in this Yahoo News article from the week, and it just gets even worse than even that video and the stuff that Castro was just referencing there. So here from Yahoo, they say, Texas traps pregnant migrants in razor wire, pushes kids back into the Rio Grande, state trooper complaint. So they say rolls of razor wire Texas installed along the U.S. side of the Rio Grande have ensnared several migrants, including a pregnant woman in obvious pain while having a miscarriage, and a father trying to free his child stuck on a trap of razor wire covered barrels in the water. A Texas trooper wrote in July 3rd email to a superior, the Houston Chronicle reported on Monday. Okay, people are getting stuck in this shit, right? Pregnant mothers, children, fathers, okay? They say the Dallas Morning News also obtained the email and corroborating a July 4th note from a second Department of Public Safety trooper. Both were identified by name. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about the, public safety people who are working, so-called public safety people working under Greg Abbott's authority. But we're talking about the border, right? This should be something that is under federal control, right? Federal jurisdiction and the Biden administration. So a follow-up question would be, where the fuck is the Biden administration in trying to put an aggressive end to these kinds of barbaric practices that these Republican governors are trying to implement to try to prosecute or to persecute these migrants who are coming in search of a better life, right? But they continue, they say, in recent weeks, as part of Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star border initiative, Texas has rolled out about 88 miles of razor wire along the Rio Grande and also put buoys in the middle of the river to deter migrants from crossing over from Mexico. This has sparked conflicts with the United States Border Patrol, complaints from local businesses, and legal challenges from Mexico. They say the trooper stationed in Eagle Pass said that Operation Lone Star service members have been ordered to push children back into the Rio Grande. Pushing children back in to a rapid water, okay, this river, the Rio Grande, that designates a large portion of the U.S. border with Mexico, okay, pushing children back in to these waters to potentially be ensnared in one of those booby traps or to, I guess, potentially drown. But it gets even worse. They say they were also told not to give water to asylum seekers, even as Texas sweltered in extreme heat. They say he recounted seeing National Guard soldiers push a 4-year-old girl. National Guard soldiers push a 4-year-old girl trying to cross the razor wire back into the river due to the orders given to them, adding that the girl then passed out from exhaustion in temperatures well over 100 degrees. The 4-year-old girl, 19-year-old pregnant woman, and others lacerated by the razor wire or injured trying to avoid it in the June 30th incidents were transferred to emergency medical services. They say on June 25th, he added, troopers came across a group of 120 and hungry and exhausted people, including small children and nursing babies, resting along the river. The shift officer in command ordered the troopers to push the people back into the water. He ordered them to push the people back into the water. This is just straight insane amounts of violence, right? This is fascism here. This is what we are witnessing, right? This crackdown on this arbitrary border that we are setting up because these terrifying, mothers and pregnant people and children, 4-year-olds who are trying to come to the United States, right? These are the tactics that are apparently necessary to try to, maintain law and order, as they say, here in the United States. I don't think that this is law and order. In fact, I think that this is a straight up human rights violation, but they say that they continue. When the troopers refused to follow with this order and asked for new guidance, they were told to drive off. He told them to leave, right? Other troopers and Federal Border Patrol agents then stepped in and provided care to the migrants. So it seems like you might have some people within this agency under Greg Abbott's leadership that are just taking it, taking the messaging coming from Greg Abbott and going to the maximum extreme that you could possibly have. And you even have some people who are working within this department who are saying, what the fuck are we doing here? I mean, this is totally insane and barbaric. So they finish off here. They say DPS spokesperson spokesperson Travis Considine told the Chronicle that there is no policy against giving water to migrants, and passed along emails from the DPS director Stephen McCraw acknowledging 7 additional cases in July of migrants needing elevated medical attention due to the razor wire. McCraw called for a safety audit and an investigation of the troopers' reports. I mean, that is the bare fucking minimum. They say a spokesperson for Abbott said, quote, Texas is deploying every tool and strategy to deter and repel illegal crossings between ports of entry, okay? Deploying every tool and strategy, okay, including setting up booby traps with razor wire and saw blades in the middle of the water, refusing to give people the services that they need, refusing to give people basic things like water in over 100-degree heat, and oh, by the way, also pushing children back into the Rio Grande. I mean, these are the kinds of, tools and strategies that they are using and that they think is acceptable. I mean, this is completely fucking ridiculous, right? And this comes on top of other policies that have been put in place under the, Texas governor's leadership here. This was another one that I didn't get to cover on this channel as well, but it was also insane. It's not necessarily related to the border, but they say here from NBC News, backlash brews against Texas law that eliminates mandatory water breaks. Okay, this was in the middle. They passed this law in the middle of one of the worst heat waves in the history of the United States. Okay, we're talking about 90, 100-degree plus temperatures, and they're passing laws where they're saying they're going to eliminate mandatory water breaks for some of these construction workers. All right, Texas had 3 straight weeks of high humidity and triple-digit temperatures in June. 3 straight weeks of triple-digit temperatures, and they say critics of the law say that it will create dangerous conditions for construction workers in heat waves. No shit. I mean, this is the brutality that they just think should be part and parcel of like operating procedure, economically, politically, and obviously with their immigration policy as well. And it doesn't get much better when you look at the Democratic side of this equation as well, right? You look at the Biden administration's border policies throughout his administration. You look at comments like this from Kamala Harris. One of the most famous ones was her standing at this podium and, saying, do not come to some of these migrants. I mean, keep in mind, a lot of these people are just like, they're refugees, right? They are asylum seekers. They are people who are coming here because they're fleeing desperate situations. They have a legal right to try to apply for asylum here in the United States of America. And we have Republicans who are just going absolutely buck wild with some of the policies and strategies they're trying to deploy. And then we have Democrats who are, number one, kind of just like allowing them to do it. And number two, also in favor of some of the same exact policies at the border, because I guess the Joe Biden administration is terrified that Republicans are going to say that he's in favor of open borders. Well, surprise, surprise, no matter what you do, you could deploy the exact same set of policies as the Trump administration when it comes to the border. They're still going to say that you are operating with an open border policy because they don't give a shit about the actual reality. They certainly don't give a shit about the people coming to the border in search of a better life. They just care about trying to attack Joe Biden from the right on every single issue, no matter how much he creeps to the right along with them. So, I mean, there you go. Again, we've been tracking a lot of, Ron DeSantis's strategies, even including dealing with immigrants that aren't even coming to the state of Florida. I mean, Florida is nowhere close to the Mexican border with the United States, but he's been, shipping migrants all across the country. DeSantis has to places like Martha's Vineyard. Greg Abbott has been doing similar things and just, illegally shipping migrants all across the country to, sanctuary cities and stuff like that. A lot of them have been welcomed with open arms by places like that, and credit to the people who are doing that and providing them with resources. But I mean, these people have just completely lost the plot, and maybe this is virtue signaling to their base. Maybe this is like more ideological. Maybe this is part of their, I guess, sort of underlying racism and fear of immigrants coming to the United States, or maybe it's just a political strategy. Who knows? But at the end of the day, these things are going to lead to people obviously being killed, obviously being hurt, and it's just completely unnecessary. If even you are somebody who cares genuinely about public safety in the United States of America.
Everyone is saying good Politic guy has the best Politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying